Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about picking your best class in AD&D. Why? Because I found this. This is something I sent to Dragon Publishing. Oh, it's not going to work. In 1980 something, the postmark has been worn off, for a submission to be published in The Dragon magazine. Although I think they dropped the by then. It used to be The Dragon, and then it just became Dragon. But I submitted this to Roger Moore, who was the editor, saying, hey, you wrote something like this, but since then Unearthed Arcana's come out. I've done a much more lower resolution or higher resolution graph of the issue. Basically, it talks about picking a character class in AD&D based on how quickly you get the spell levels and what your hit points would be, and just how fast you'd rise in level. Effectively, it compares the classes with their XP and compares the XP they get to the level they are and also the hit points they have. So I'll read you the beginning of it, and I'll show you some graphs, and I'll tell you what conclusions I drew in this masterpiece of an article. So it's called Picking Your Best Class, an Analysis of AD&D Character Classes. The AD&D game system provides a large variety of character classes and races with which to adventure. The sheer number of combinations possible often confuses the beginning player, who wonder, quote, just what is the best character to take, unquote. The veteran gamer knows that the word best here is a relative term, and that the best class depends both on the player's tastes and the Dungeon Master's campaign. The purpose of this article is to reveal some statistical quirks in the AD&D system so that these anomalies can be exploited by players in their DM's milieu. Okay, wow, was I just a teenager full of French words and the desire to exploit AD&D. Anyway, I go on to talk about the different classes and how I examined the classes based on their XP by both their level and their hit points. I did add this note. I said, please note the lack of inclusion of the Bard class is not an oversight. Bards are difficult to analyze due to their tripartite level advancement as fighters, thieves, and then bards. Besides, they're an optional class which many DMs do not allow anyway. However, if your DM allows bards, take one, in all caps. They rise in levels better than thieves in the long run. They have the best overall hit point average of any class. They fight well because of their fighter class. They can use spells, and they have thieving abilities. Basically, you will be your DM's worst nightmare. So, I will figure out how to show these figures later when I edit this, but let me talk about level advancement. Figures 1 and 2 show the continuous level curves for level advancement for all classes, including the new Cavalier, Barbarian, and Thief Acrobat classes from Unearthed Arcana, and the extra Druid levels that book provided. The advancement has been separated into two graphs due to the differences between the irregular advancement at lower levels, mostly those levels under 10, and then the steady advancement at higher levels. So if you look at figure 1, and hopefully I'm displaying it here, we notice two surprising things. First, the Thief is not the fastest rising character class based on XP. Between levels 6 and 12, the Druid is clearly the advancement winner, beating out the Thief easily and being a full 4 levels higher than the Barbarian, which is the worst class for advancement. Second, the Paladin is not the slowest rising character, contrary to popular belief. The Monk between 5th and 9th level and the Barbarian at all other levels is far worse. Turning our attention to figure 2, which is the upper level advancement, we see that from 12th to 14th level, the Druid goes from the best to the second worst character for level advancement. Thieves and Illusionists are the fastest characters to rise over 12th level, and in fact are equally good. Both need the same amount to go up one level at those upper levels, and why the Illusionist is always one level lower than the Thief. What is the big difference between being level 29 and 30 anyway? Recommendation is based solely on your desire to be the highest level possible. The best character to take would be a thief. If stealing isn't your forte, then you have a choice. If your DM's campaign seems to have a level maximum around 12, so no one's ever really made it over 12th level, then take a druid. Otherwise, an illusionist is a good choice. All illusionist characters should be human in order to have unlimited advancement, but half-elves make great thieves and druids. They have an unlimited advancement like humans, plus several advantageous racial abilities like infravision, resistance to sleep and charm, and bonuses to thieving abilities. And according to the racial preference table on Unearthed Arcana, page 12, it seems that almost all of the races get along with half-elves. I am the king of mini-maxing. So for hit point averages, as with the level advancement curves, the hit point average curves can be broken into two graphs, one for lower amounts, figure 3, and the other for higher amounts, figure 4. These averages are computed for the characters assuming only the average constitution scores between 7 and 14. This is slightly deceiving because certain fighter types, namely the Cavalier, Paladin, and Barbarian, all have to have constitutions of at least 15, which entitles them to additional hit points at each level. However, to simplify the comparisons, only the base hit point averages are plotted. It's relatively easy to shift the curves up for each of the possible constitution scores, but this would only result in a cluttered, hard-to-read graph. So additionally, this simplification turns out to matter, because as figures 3 and 4 show, the Cavalier has better hit point average than any other class, even without his constitution bonus. And he maintains his lead until 4.5 million XPs at 24th level. The Cavalier gets this advantage over fighters by having a higher initial average, a d10 plus 3 at level 1, compared to the fighters, which is 8.5 points compared to the fighters' 5.5, and actually rising in level faster than fighters at levels 9 through 13. The worst character for hit points is, unsurprisingly, the magic user. He has less hit points at level 32 than the Cavalier has at level 9. The illusionist character escapes this fate, barely, by rising a great deal faster than the magic user. It is also interesting to note that the monk is actually worse than the magic user at levels 7 through 9 because of his poor advancement. So a recommendation based purely on hit points. A player should take a Cavalier. Not only will you have the best hit points, but your level and therefore your 2 hit scores and saving throws will be comparable to all the other fighter types. Also, the character class that receives receives numerable extra abilities, such as weapon choice, horsemanship, and saving throw bonuses. So why would you ever settle for being a fighter? The perceptive reader may notice that the curve for barbarians is especially deceptive because they gain plus 2 hit points for every point above 14, which would result in an extra 8 points per level for a barbarian with an 18 constitution. This does make the barbarian better than the Cavalier, even one with an 18 constitution at low levels. But since the barbarian advances so slowly at higher levels, roughly the upper teens, the Cavalier is better again. Also, Cavaliers have a special ability to raise their ability scores as they level up. So the Cavalier is much more likely to have an 18 constitution than a barbarian. Indeed, the barbarian rises in levels so slowly that he would need those extra hit points just to survive. So then I go on and say, if you're going to pick a cleric, pick a druid. Why? Druids get Cure Light Wounds at level 2, at the second level, but they get that really quickly. And Cure Serious Wounds is 4th for both clerics and druids, and druids will get those at half the experience points a cleric needs. Cure Critical is a higher level spell for a druid, but he actually gets it before a cleric would get level 5th level spells, and druids can shape change, so they don't need to worry about curing themselves. For the best fighter, basically I said go Cavalier. For best spellcaster, it's a difficult decision because while illusionists have better hit points and levels, magic users have a subjectively better spell list. However, I point out that even though illusionists have a reputation for being weak, some of their spells in Unearthed Arcana are so fast and so powerful and can be cast silently that they're actually really powerful, and you should probably consider them over a magic user. And then for the Thief Assassin, Thief Acrobat, and Monk as Thief-type classes, the Thief was the hands-down winner, rising in level faster and having the best overall hit point average. And since any race can be a Thief, and a half-elf has unlimited advancement, and they have nothing but bonuses for thieves, they're the recommended race. And then finally I went into multi-class, and I pointed out that Illusionist Thief rises faster than any other, and Cleric Fighter Magic User is a wonderful choice because despite its slug-like rise, It's got great attack spells, great curative spells, and great physical attacks. And as an added bonus you rarely see, Cleric Fighter Magic user combinations can use almost every single magic item that drops. All potions and 90% of scrolls are usable, as well as every single one except 2 miscellaneous items. Those 2 being the Manual of Stealthy Pilfering and the Instrument of the Bards. This means that all but roughly 1/10% of all magic items that drop, according to the charts in the DM's guide, are usable by that one class. And then if you're going to 2 class, I go on to recommend things like the Druid turned Thief, or an Illusionist turned Druid. Some other interesting classes turn Fighter turned Magic user, because you can really up the hit points early on, and then you immediately start casting spells. And then a Magic user turned Illusionist, so you never know which one of his magic missiles are real and which ones are illusions. So I gave a conclusion, which I hope this helps beginning and veteran players decide on classes, and I hope I've illustrated the difference. And I received a form letter that basically said, "Dear author, thank you for submission," and it circled, "We have no current editorial interest in this subject." But then he hand wrote, and this is from Robert Moore, "Good work, though." And interestingly, this letter isn't dated either. So I don't know when I did this. My guess is 1987 plus or minus a year. So late high school, really, really early college. No, that would actually be definitely late college. So I wanted to share that because I thought it was hilarious how my brain thought, even back then, when I went to go through system mechanics in games like Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Hope you liked it too.